Hey everyone, Ray here with Rinksworks. This guitar was literally pulled out of a dumpster. Somebody threw it away. So a guy brought it to me and said, hey, can you fix it up? So I did a whole bunch of work to it. But this video is about this cover right here. This cover was missing. So it's an inlaid cover for the electronics compartment. And I'm going to show you how I made that if you're interested. So stay tuned and I'll show you how I did it. I'll be right back. All right, so I'm putting this guitar together for a friend of mine. I completely gutted it. It came out of a dumpster, literally a dumpster. It was all kind of jacked up. But anyway, we put it together and I realized that I'm missing the cover here, the electronics cover. So I'm going to show you how we're going to make one. I just cut out a piece of paper close to the size, not close to the size, actually quite a bit oversized. And we're going to set it on there like that. And then take some Scotch tape. Scotch tape won't hurt your finish, and it'll peel back off the paper as well if you're careful with it. Give yourself a tab so you can peel it. You're not digging under the finish with your fingernail. Make sure your tape is away from the hole. And I think you see what I'm doing, so we'll probably put this on fast forward for a second. Not fast forward, super speed. Excuse me. Okay, that's it. There's your cover. So, and then when you need to take it off, you just lift the tape off and you're all done. All right, actually, that's not true. So the reason I taped it all the way around is to get this tight. Now what I'm going to do is take this sharp pencil and I'm just going to go around the perimeter of this thing, and it will draw in if you do it right. It'll draw in the outline. Excuse me, I have a bit of a cold or something. So there you go. Now we got our outline. And the tape will actually peel back off. Of course, I'm going to figure out where I started or ended. But you can peel that off. And it won't hurt the finish. It won't leave a residue. Nothing like that. Okay, now that we've got our outline drawn, we're just going to cut it out. You're going to want to cut on, if this is the line we're cutting, you want to cut it on the inside of the whole thing, not on the outside. If you cut on the outside, you're going to be trimming it back. So cut on the inside, just barely on the inside of the line. Okay, let's see if it fits. Okay, I've got to do just a little bit of trimming, and I'll just do that off camera. You don't need to watch me do micro trims here. So I just need to trim a little bit here and a little bit up in here. So I'll trim that up and then I'll come back and we'll go to the next step. Okay, I got this thing fitting now. I left the trimmings here just so you could kind of see. You know, it did take me a minute to get it all trimmed up, but it does fit in here nicely now. So now what we're going to do is find there's 3 screw holes. We're going to find those. I'm going to try to do it the same way we did with the when we did the outline here. Let's see if I can't feel those screw holes and trace them over like this. It's a little difficult to see. Maybe what I'll do instead is, that's what I'm going to do instead. I'm going to punch it through. There's a lot of rough finish in this area, so it's a little bit difficult to feel the holes, but I see that one there. I don't know if you can see that. That wasn't it. I might have to lift this off and see where those holes are. Sorry, I wasn't very prepared apparently. Okay, see the holes there. This one is right in here. There's that one. There's that one. Now we have our 3 holes. So, now we've got that. I'm going to put this now on something a little bit more substantial. And I'm just going to use a piece of cardboard. Okay, so what I did is I traced this onto something a little bit more substantial, cardboard obviously. So now I'm going to cut this out and I'll be right back. Okay, here we are now in cardboard, so it's a little bit more substantial. We'll mark it, and I'm just going to pop it off and I'll sit this on here and mark the screw holes, and then we'll get started and put it on what's going to actually be our template piece. So I'll be right back. Okay, so we got our cardboard template. Now we're going to put this on hardboard. This is 1/4 inch hardboard. It's what I use for most of my templates in guitar making. For example, here's a template for a whole guitar, or for a guitar body. Body I designed, and then I get it how I want it, and then I make a hardboard template, and then I use that to create those type of guitars. So I use it for all of my stuff. So this time we're going to use this hardboard. We're going to put it up as close as I can as to not waste any. And before I start, I'm going to the 3 screw holes, I'm going to punch those through just to leave a dimple. Don't let this move once you start this. So this would be our screw locations. And then trace out the template onto the hardboard. Okay, so there we go. This upper edge here is straight. So here's our screw holes. So next, let's get out the bandsaw and cut that out. Alright, so let's cut this out on the bandsaw. We're going to cut it close, we'll leave it a little bit big, and then we'll straighten it up and get it closer as we go. Okay, so I cut just on the outside of the lines. Now we'll go and maybe we use a drum sander. I don't know. We'll see. All right, I decided to use the spindle sander to do final shape on this thing, smooth everything out. I'm just gonna turn on the vacuum, suck the dust out, and just shape it a little bit at a time, and I'll just keep testing it. Alright, after some massaging with the spindle sander, I got it to fit in the cavity. So what we'll do now is set up and cut out a plastic piece. So I'll get set up and we'll do that next. Okay, I had some scrap plastic laying around. You can get this stuff at guitar supply places like Stu Mac, that's Stuart McDonald, a few other places you can find it online. I happen to have a piece of scrap that I had made some other stuff out of it fit this perfect, so I traced out the cover, then I just went over to the bandsaw and crudely cut it out. Now I'll show you how we're going to shape that with a router. Okay, I've got some double back tape here. I'm just going to cut a few small pieces and set it on the pattern, and then we'll set the plastic on it, and then we'll be ready to use a pattern bit on the router to cut it out. So let me just get some tape on here real quick. Okay, now that we've got it taped, we'll just set it on the plastic. And we're going to cut out, making sure that we have plastic all the way around. Alright, and that'll hold it in place while we do the routing. Now, I'm going to see if I can get you in here to see this. We're going to use a pattern bit on the router. So there's a bearing that sits down here. You can have the bearing on the bottom, some of them have bearing on the top, so there are different ways to use it. And what we're going to do is we're going to just run this right around. The bearing is going to ride on the pattern, and then the cutter will cut this to the exact same shape as a pattern. So let me get that set up and we'll cut it. Okay, so the template's going to run along the bearing. So the template's going to go down, and we'll just run this through and trim it all up. Okay, so there you have it. It's now the exact same size. Now what I'll do is I'll drill some small holes through where the screw holes are going to go before I take the cover off of there. But you just got to clean up the edges now a little bit. And we made an exact size of this template. So as long as the template's good, this is going to be good. Well, let me go drill some holes in that now. Okay, let's drill the holes for the screws. Well, remember all we did was punch these. So I'm going to use a really small drill bit the first time through so that I don't, so the drill bit doesn't wander off and not hit those perfectly. And I'll come back through with a larger bit that's just slightly larger than the screws we're going to use. Okay, I'm going to change that out and I'll drill some larger holes. Alright, this is a 1/8 bit. Alright, the only thing left is to remove the plastic, see if it fits, see if the screws line up, do a little bit of cleanup on the edges. And then we need to countersink the screw holes. So this was like this, so that means this is the top. All right, there she is. And the screw holes line up. Of course, this is just plastic that'll peel off. It'll look real nice on there. So all I'm going to do now is go get a countersink, and we'll countersink those screw holes. All right, time to countersink these holes. Now I happen to have some really nice countersinks, and a nice countersink body. I used to work on aircraft, so even though I worked in the electronics and avionics part of aircraft, in the Seattle area back in the mid-early 90s, there was Boeing had a store called Boeing Surplus, and I would go down there and pick up stuff. I never use these at work, but I think I paid $2 for this. This is seriously good housing. I would just buy stuff that I would think maybe in the future, that's stuff I'll use. So, and I do. Anyway, so here's the countersink. It fits right in that hole. And make sure it's the correct pitch for that screw. And it appears to be. So I'll set this up now, and I can do repeatable holes with the drill press and repeatable depths, countersunk depths with this. So I'm going to go ahead and set this up. You don't need anything that's fancy. You just go buy yourself a set of cheap countersinks, and you can just eyeball it. Just drill it a little at a time. Keep checking your screw. The reason I'm going through all the trouble to set this up is because I also make guitars, and I usually make my electronics compartments all the same, and then of course that would mean that the electronics covers are going to all be the same, and I have a few in works right now, so I'm going to go ahead and make the covers for those guitars in conjunction with this, since I have all the tools out to do it. So now we'll set this countersink up and do those holes. Okay, so let's get this countersunk. I actually already did one hole, but I forgot to turn the camera on, so I'm going to show you again from the start how I did it. I've got a piece of hardboard clamped on here with a hole drilled through it. You want a good surface. You don't want any kind of a rough surface where your workpiece can move around at all, because then you'll just make oblong holes. So I've got this clamped on here, and I've got my countersink set up to where I know it's not going to cut the depth that we need yet, and we'll just keep adjusting it until we get to where we need it. So let's get it started. I'm just going to go down as far as it'll go for right now. You can see how it's starting. I'm sure that's not deep enough yet. So no, it needs to go deeper. This is just my magnetic screwdriver to hold the screw while I'm doing this. So I'm just going to adjust that a little bit more. That's just so I don't lose my screw. And we're just going to ease up on it until we get it to the right depth, and then once it's set, and we can just keep going with all the rest of them. Okay, it needs just a smidge more. And here I tell you, I have this thing so I don't drop my screws, and I drop the screw. There it is. Okay. So we need to make this just a little bit deeper, not much. So we're just adjusting a little at a time. We're sneaking up on it. One of these days I need to do something about the light on this thing, because I can't see much. Okay. All right, I think that's right about where we want it. All right, well, we're about ready to put this thing on. I want to know why you guys didn't yell at me when I peeled off that plastic before I was done with it. That was dumb. That's what the plastic's on there for, so you peel it off at the very end. I had a little scratch in the plastic or a bubble or something, and brain fart, I just peeled it off. Anyway, that caused me to have to buff the thing out, so it cost me a little extra time. I just went over just the edges just now with some 320 grit sandpaper, just to kind of clean them up. There was a couple little ridges and that. So basically we're done though. Let's put this thing on and see how she looks. I do have one little area that I'm not that happy with, and I'll probably just, I don't know if I'll ever have to make another one of these exact ones for this particular guitar again, but I will write a note on my template to do a little bit of a modification to it. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So right here, I got a little bit more gap right here on the body than I wanted. So if I need to ever do another one, I'll save this, but I'll put a note on it and say, you know, make the exact template, but I'll leave this proud and then reshape this by hand again to get it just right. But it doesn't look bad. So there you have it. So hopefully you got something out of this, and give you some ideas anyway. So we went from paper to cardboard to hardboard to a cover. So, all right, well, thanks for watching. Take care until the next video. Like and subscribe if you want to. If you don't want to, that's fine too. I just make them for me and whoever might want to learn something or get some ideas. So, take care, everyone. Bye.